Your piercing gaze on the viscera of philosophy once more. Um, I think I've seen the disembodied Heidegger under the skirts of Heidegger a little in one small point. Um, the Socratic equivalent of the Heideggerian um, uh, criticism of Husserl, his teacher Husserl, on the point of Husserl being thought as assuming on the basis of an analogy the being of beings with the senses being turned upon the exterior world. So the senses are turned upon the exterior world. We know that because we can close our eyes and the physical eyes are blocked. The senses are turned upon the exterior world in some sense, is a basic datum. Uh, but that being is something derivative, that's something that comes from inside in the same way that the physical eye is thought as inside, facing on the outside, is an assumption. This in a curious way, this corresponds, curious at first glance, it corresponds to two ways of thinking of what Socrates is asking about. So some people say Socrates is asking about a so-called universal or a concept, an abstraction of some kind. But the other way of looking at it is that what he was asking about was the teleology of the thing in question. What is that thing tending towards? What is it meant? What is its perfection and what is its death or beginning? Um, so, in the analytic philosophy tradition, the notion that Socrates was talking about the universal means exactly something that does occur in the Platonic discussions, but is only half of what occurs. So, what they think is that I ask, here is a tree, and there's another tree, there's a third tree, there's a fourth tree, and then I say, all these trees have green leaves, so green leaved things. And then, on some kind of analogy with this property of trees that they have green leaves, I try to ask, what must all trees have? Because some trees might not have green leaves, but what is the property that they must all have? This then corresponds to the universal, this question of the trying to discover some kind of property. But at the same time, if we're trying to discover some kind of property, doesn't it mean that we're sort of nosing around, sniffing around, like a rat or like some underground creature? And this is phenomenology under Husserl's notion, according to Heidegger, because you see, because Husserl has thought on an analogy with the senses. So, in a way, we're sniffing around, we're using our senses in Husserl's phenomenology. But what Heidegger says is no, it's the other, it's not about descending into this question of the senses, but rather, what does Socrates actually ask? He asks about the ergon of the thing. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean he's asking about what, if we sniff around, we'll discover the same qualities, but rather it means what is the thing for? What is it tending towards? What is its teleology? So, for example, with justice, what is justice for, according to Socrates? Justice is that quality in the cosmos, in the heavens, as it were, but real, just as the lower, more ethereal or rude matter is also real in some sense. What is its perfection? What is its from seed to bearing fruit? What is the cycle that it's trying to constantly accomplish? And he says it's to make people better. So, and then of course he makes such arguments as if you just ask the question of anyone and they just answer spontaneously and they of their own free will, then you say, is it just to harm someone? And they'll say no. And is it just to benefit someone? They'll say yes. So this is supposed to be spontaneous evidence for that thesis. But the point is, whatever it is that we're talking about in Heidegger's thinking, it's not thought on analogy with consciousness, a consciousness which would be a sense data derivative thing. So Denken and Heidegger, we can see in the same position as the Socrates who asks, what is it for? In the sense that the voice is for speech, justice is for improving the citizens.